It is 7 PM. We are going to call the committee of committees meeting to order. Do roll call, please.
Yep, I have committees members, Chris Samples. Here. John Talbot.
Here.
William Luxinger. Nathan Maz.
Here.
Jen Christensen.
Here.
Bill Motisi.
Here.
President Rick Worm.
Here.
Treasurer Brenda Onabini.
Here.
I, Clerk Sandy Monson here. Public Works Supervisor Brent Berge.
Yes. Here.
And
Sorry.
Park Supervisor Nathan Hill.
Present.
All right, moving on. Is there a motion for the minutes?
I think that entire line died. Hold on, Jen, can you tap on your mic for a moment?
Wireless. I'll use his.
Okay, thank
I
you.
don't know why this isn't working.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve July 6, 2021 committee of committee minutes.
I'll second.
Jen makes a motion to approve the July 6, 2021 committee meeting minutes. Nathan seconds. Is there any discussion on the minutes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes at 7:01. And to me, discussion of the support of Ogle County broadband efforts. You heard Sandy say it or not, but in our packet tonight was the form letter that they would like us to sign for Ogle County's efforts to bring broadband to the entire county. They're looking for us just to sign a letter in support, so they actually sent their letter with it. Anybody have any issues with supporting that? All right, we're moving on. Andy,
I do not have anything.
Brenda,
We have the approving the intergovernmental agreement with the IEPA. Forgot what that was. Oh,
Between the Illinois
this
Department.
unsewer grant information that we have for a grant for $25,000 for sewer. And that's what that is.
Brenda cannot make a motion.
And we don't. need
No,
a
no,
motion
no.
for it.
It goes on to next week.
Yeah, so this is just an intergovernmental agreement that we're required to sign for us to receive the $25,000 that we've been awarded. If there's no issues, I'll put it on the consent agenda for next week.
Is there a specification for the spending on that money?
There is, I think we're using it on engineering services for a potential sewer project.
Yes.
Spelled out in the intergovernmental agreement.
That's what I read. I just want to clarify.
Matt actually helped us get the grant.
Hey, Matt.
Anybody have an issue with it being on the consent agenda?
Still you.
All right, and the next thing we have in your packet is the 3 softwares that Sandy and I have been looking to upgrade our software for 2 years. We kind of had something last year, but then, it was a bad year for COVID and everything. So we would like to get the BS&A software. That's everything we want. Plus a lot of things, a lot of extra things that we don't have. We have the utilities, people can view the utilities, pay them. Just a much better software than what we have now.
So currently, we don't allow our residents to view their utility bills online because if we gained that access, it would allow every resident to just plug in anybody else's account number and view the billing. So we've disabled that access for the last 11 years. Then the new program would allow residents to log in, pay, view their billing history, view their current bill, and pay online. So it would allow the online access that we have for every other bill that most people paid.
Would there still be a fee to pay online?
That's through the credit card company. That's not us, but we would look at reducing that because I would, the second step of this is going to be changing our credit card company to one that's compatible with the program. So,
Outside of resident benefit, what internal benefits does this offer?
Well,
so,
The employees also will be able to look at all their benefits and their paychecks and all their information in there too.
here's an example. You guys implemented a base rate fee. I called our current software company and asked them to please allow us to implement the base rate fee separate from our regular gallonage billing. they said, absolutely, you can do that. Here you go. And I said, but I need it in a separate line item so that we can keep track of where that base rate is. We can keep track of how much money we're bringing in for that to assign it correctly for water, wastewater repairs. They are unable to do that. So I had to come up with a workaround, and I spent a day and a half updating all 700 accounts individually to add in the water and sewer base rate fee. I shouldn't have to spend a day and a half of my time updating and finding a workaround that was not advised by their people, but I made it happen so that we can now keep track of those fees separately. We need a program that's kind of working with where we're at now in the village.
What would be from the time it's approved, installation and training to the implementation, what kind of time frame is that?
Several months. So the first step after it's approved would be to contact our current software system and ask them to create this package that makes it transferable over to the new company. And then once it's in that form, then the new company would come in and start working and transferring all the data over. Because we did ask them to take back 7 years worth of data, because that's what our look back period from the state.
If I do my math correctly, this is a $62,000 proposal.
It is.
Mhm.
It is. And if you look at the software comparison, which is the first page, you'll see it. The middle one is the one we're suggesting, but it also has the lowest annual fee, which is actually lower than what we currently pay in our annual fee.
Is the current people gonna charge us to load up that? Cause
Yes, but it's, I anticipate it being about $1,000, which is what it cost last time I had them do something like that.
Are we just renting the software or will we own it? It's ours.
We will own it. The annual fee will cover the updates that will be notified of. And currently, we're not notified of updates until we log into the program and something doesn't work and we call them and they're like, oh, there's an update. So it'll cover that and the customer service and in any of those types of issues. The same thing that we're covered now in our annual fee.
Okay,
We
thank you.
currently own our current program. And we've had our current program since 2010.
Is this within your budget?
It
Yeah.
is. We've actually budgeted for 2 years. Our goal was actually to present this last April for last fiscal year, but then COVID hit. So we've had it for 2 years now.
there is a yearly maintenance fee though, right?
That's what the 4,300 is. That's less than what we currently pay now.
I'm kind of due to the amount of cuts we did to the budget and as tight as it is. I mean, my initial gut reaction is to not spend this much on this kind of a project at the very beginning of the budget, but wait kind of to the middle of the budget or towards the end. Just kind of see where we're at, but I'll defer to the board. But
So here's a few things. One, I'd like it done this calendar year so that when Brenda switches over on January 1st to the new calendar year, we're in a position where it's starting off correctly. To in the switching of the year from 2019 to 2020, the current system switched it to 1920 because it couldn't handle that it was so old. And so that ended up messing up some of Brenda's reporting too. So I'd like to before we run into that issue again, I'd like to be able to do that. And then 3, with it being a months-long project, I'd prefer to have it done sooner because we just renewed our annual subscription for our current program. So that would give us 12 months of being able to run, well, not 12 months, but it'd give us months of being able to run both programs in case there's an issue.
will this new program fall in line with the auditor's recommendations of separation of duties?
It absolutely will, because in the new program, we can actually give you as finance trustee the ability to go in and see.
Oh, I don't want any more resources. I mean,
Yeah, okay.
can we disperse
Yes,
it amongst
it
the
will-
staff?
It can give me, it can give you, it can give anybody a secondary glance to look and review Brenda's and approve it, and it'll mark in their approval. And it allows us to limit what that person could see. So we could make it so they can't add bills in, but they can review all the bills.
So can we, under the auditor's recommendation, can we restrict Brenda's ability to add new vendors?
Yeah.
And only do the bills payable and then only allow yourself or Rick or the supervisors to add vendors under their department title.
Yeah, everybody can be restricted on access points, including that. The other thing is currently Brenda has to balance our checkbook via QuickBooks because our current program does not have a balancing portion to it. This program has a balancing portion so that we will no longer have to run a QuickBooks program and Brenda will no longer have to manually balance our books.
Much as I would rather not spend the money, if this will allow us to adapt to the auditor's recommendations of separation of duties, I'd be inclined to support it.
Brenda and I specifically asked about that question and we specifically asked about the lease rate being in a separate general ledger line item so that we could keep track of its of the money that was being set aside for that specific purpose. And they said they could do both of those.
Thank you.
Will we get any special alerts on how close we are getting to the spending of any committee? You know, if we have an expenditure, it tells us if we are getting close to the amount that has been budgeted.
Can I, well, we don't know that far into the program yet, but if you look at your treasurer's report every month, you can look at the line items and it shows us right on the treasurer's report that you receive every month, what percentage is left.
Okay, I want to know how smart this system is.
It's pretty,
Will they do that?
I will say that, keep in mind, the program we currently have is from 2010. It does not have regular updates. The updates that are done for it are done system-wide. This is not a program that was built for our municipality. This program is for everybody using the program in the state of Illinois. The program we're asking to purchase would be customized to us. So we could ask it to do things and we get to make selections that are what we do. Whereas our current program, anybody in the state of Illinois that has this program has the same options.
So they could ask if it would have a line item alert.
Yeah.
or If we start getting closer, surpass the line item, that it would somehow detail it.
I do remember that being discussed, but Brenda and I have seen 3 of these programs now, so I can't remember
Twice.
which one it
We had a
was. Yeah, we've
refresher
seen
this
3 of them twice now.
Okay, thank you.
How many months do you think that you would have to specify more for you that you'd possibly have to run both systems?
The
For
goal
like
is
software
none.
programs?
The goal is none.
None.
Yeah, they said the moment that MSI, which is our current program, creates the backup or creates the ability to do the spreadsheet thing that transfers all the information over. Their goal is that they'll come in on a Thursday night, install it Friday morning. We'll have one day down while they transfer all the information over. We start working on it Friday afternoon, Monday we're running. I would feel comfortable having this access to the second program because as soon as we stop paying the annual fee, I suspect our access will be denied.
Yeah.
So I would like access for a couple of months so that we can double check.
When does that run out?
We just renewed it in June,
Again, yeah, when does it run out?
so in May,
Here.
yeah, it's a year.
Any further questions? Everybody okay with it being on the consent agenda, or do you want it on the agenda separately?
Consensus fine with me.
Bill?
I'm thinking, if we put it in there separately, it's gonna bring up a lot of issues again, where if we just go with it, because we're talking about it now. You could be on the consent agenda. And if we come up with any other ideas, like, we'll
We come
talk
up with
about them
anything else,
there.
We can pull it off the consent agenda.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, on the left?
Thank you.
That's all I have.
If anybody does have any questions between now and next Tuesday, let Brenda or I know too. And the sales rep has been very awesome about us being able to reach out and ask questions.
All right, Matt, project updates.
Hold on, pause. What's your microphone number over there?
11.
All right, you're my dying mic. Can you use Nate's mic? Nathan's mic?
Was
Go
green.
far, that's all you get.
Oh, geez. Doesn't stretch very far, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, we're gonna get close there. Just a couple project updates. The North Junction Road Seal Coat and Widening Project. IDOT did approve final quantities and the final pay request has been submitted to the village, so I'm gonna probably remove that project next month. And then on the very last page, what I call the Benny's Corner Market Self-Storage Development, the Hayden project. Sandy just sent me this afternoon. I just got a quick glance before I came to the meeting of the tentative plat, so I'm kind of going through that to see if they made all the changes, and then I'll let you know if it's good to approve. And then not on the list, and I don't think I was doing that in the past, but just to let everybody know, we did 2 ditch and culvert inspections here this past month. One for 926 White Birch Lane and 1006 Whitetail Drive. Both of them are okay, recommended approval. The only thing is they didn't have any of the sodding down, so either Brett or us will have to come back after the sodding's down just to make sure it still looks good.
They did put the sod down and Fergie was gonna go out and take a look at it. I don't know if he had a chance, and if he had concerns, I told him to take it back to you, or if he thought it was fine to just approve it as is. Did you have a chance to look at it?
Yes, I did. The sod was all right. It was, I'm giving him a little bit mad. It was probably an inch or 2 above invert, but it should settle out.
Settle a little bit.
And it does root in. I did tell the expediter was there, so I told him from now on, get that grade a little bit tighter, allow for your sod thickness to bring that down to invert, so we're not just already starting behind the 8 ball.
Right.
So, but it's not.
Okay, sounds good. And then one last thing for the board. We are planning to do our IML dinner. It's gonna be Friday night. So we'll probably be sending out invitations shortly. The one thing to note of, Sandy, for everybody that might be attending is Ferry Carries is requesting with supply issues with COVID that everybody will have to make their dinner and dessert selections before we go. They want to know what everybody's ordering
Around Steve-O.
before we attend, so,
That's fine. I'll make sure when I get
Probably will.
RSVPs, I get.
yeah.
Okay, while we're there, I might as well do the update on Benny's too. So there's a glitch that we neglected to tell them they needed to apply for 2 items when they first signed up to go to the ZBA. So in order not to slow them down, we are going to have a series of special meetings, including one of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the ZBA, so we don't slow the.
Start that first process now.
So when Haywell applied, they applied for a tentative plat of subdivision, not a final plat. They could have applied for a tentative and a final at the same time. They did not. So the final plat, once Matt gives us a blessing on it, once Matt says it's okay, then we'll get the word changed to final instead of tentative, and then and then it'll have to go back before the the PZC without it's not a public hearing, it's just a meeting, and then come here for final approval. There were just a few things that Matt had asked to be fixed, and they did fix before you guys saw it. The planning and zoning hasn't seen it, and Matt hasn't confirmed that all the fixes were done. The general ones I saw were, but so we're gonna have to do a quick series of special meetings. I did talk to Glenda today, the planning and zoning chairperson, about that.
Did we let Tim know?
Tim and his attorney had a meeting, have a teleconference with Mark Heinley, or village attorney Mark Heinley tomorrow. And so they'll know then Tim has had some things that have kept him otherwise occupied at the moment. And so the attorneys did talk to me today and confirmed what was left to do.
Does that have to hold up a permit?
Yes. But we need to first make sure that everything was done. So, and as you'll see further down on this agenda, there's one other item that's still holding on. But no, Rick and I had a conversation with the village attorney, letting him know that we needed it to move as quickly as possible.
It's been delayed enough. We don't need to hold it up longer. All right, to the committees, community development and events.
If you haven't heard already, last week, I received a email from the last food vendor that I had at farmer's market. And they were pulling out due to they were not getting enough customers and there was only them and 2 other vendors at the last farmer's market in July. So after some thought, I just decided that we're gonna stop the farmer's market for the last 2 months, for August and September, because lack of community support, lack of vendors commitment. And I just didn't think it was right to sit out there on the Wednesday nights and hope that I have vendors that show up. They are not communicating with me when they are coming, if they're coming, if they're not coming. So I just figured this way it was better off for everybody to just put it out there that I was just gonna forego the remainder of the season.
I commend you for all the work you've done in the farmer's market the past couple of years, and whatever I read on social media that said we need to advertise it more. I'll flat out say that's bullshit. It couldn't have been advertised anymore. So the people that were complaining about that, that's crap. So, I mean, good job as hard as you worked on it.
I mean,
And
I
I
know,
feel bad that the people attacked you at that, or the village at that length, but it's ridiculous.
yeah, I mean, down here, the whole entire 4 hours that goes on, and I could tell you what community members come down. So if there are those that are complaining, I know who's there. I mean, yes, I may have missed some or whatever, but I mean, I know the ones that support it.
It was advertised. Outside of spending $10,000 on a radio ad or TV ad, it was advertised weekly and daily. So
Yeah, like we have our
the information
banners
was out
up
there.
on both sides of town. We have it on the digital sign.
Which is down right
That's
now.
not on anymore. But,
It's
yeah,
actually
so,
not on because I couldn't get the farmer's market to stop showing on it.
Oh.
So I have to go fix it.
so if you guys have if any community members question you, that's kind of what, why I did it and stuff like that, but does any of you guys have any questions?
No,
On
Good,
it?
good job.
Thank you, Jen.
And so then the next thing to start talking about is, now that the COVID is getting, again, let's talk about the parties for fall and holiday. I have the dates booked. Just a matter of how to go back to a full party or continue a drive-through. Any
I think you need,
suggestions?
I think you need to take the date you picked, work backward as a drop date deadline of when you can properly plan an in-person party or a drive-through portion. Pick that date. I mean, we're kind of far out still at this point.
All right, see what happens with our, same thing we did before.
Pick a
We'll
drop
see what
dead.
happens.
Yeah, because like I have the fall ones scheduled for October 16th,
So, I mean, what do you?
Where's that?
a
what do you want to do?
month,
Maybe
a month.
first?
I was gonna say a month,
The
like,
first?
at least a month. Oh,
I support it. So September 16th.
We have no idea what they're gonna be doing as far as the state or the feds yet,
right,
so
that's,
let's just hang on and wait.
Because what you buy and prepare food wise, you can determine if you're.
yes,
down
because
in the
that's done a
car.
couple days prior in advance, but it's like the ordering of the other stuff.
There's a regular board meeting on September 14th. Would you like me to put it on the agenda for that day?
Sure,
That just determines if you're buying the craft. stuff.
right, yes,
Perfect.
because a lot of the other stuff, I just go to Sam's Club and.
Anything further, Jen?
Nope, that's it.
William?
Under this year's budget, plan of proposal you saw last week, we had a CD mature and we made our first payment towards the remaining balance of the IEPA loan.
Mhm.
That will, by the end of this fiscal year, have that paid off. So that was the first step in that, and you'll see a few more throughout this fiscal year, and by the end of the fiscal year, it'll be gone.
Anything further?
No.
Bill?
Nothing really, we just keep rolling along, doing our thing.
John?
Not on the agenda tonight.
Nate and I, last Friday met with Bridget and Dylan from Fairgram about some possible grant writing and stuff, and I'll let Nate take it from here.
Yeah, I actually received today a proposal from Fairgram to provide services to write an OSALAD grant, Open Space Land and Development. I believe it's the same grant funding that paid for the portion of the park in the beginning. We would be looking at purchasing the 10 or so acres just north of the park to add additional parking and amenities. And so for your consideration tonight and next week is to an agreement between Fairgram and the village to proceed with providing the grant writing services to look at purchasing 10 acres north of Community Park for the additional park space, parking, amenities, that sort of stuff. So be happy to answer any questions.
We had this budgeted, correct?
We have a large engineering budget this year, yes, to accommodate the various projects that we have lined up. This is one of those.
This
And the
is-
return on investment should be pretty good.
For clarification, it's not in your word packet.
Okay, that's-
You're not missing anything.
Yeah, we
But-
just got it today. So I don't want to get the cart before the horse, but we didn't have a chance to get it out to everybody, but I wanted to discuss it with you, and it'd be $6,000 to engage Fairgram to write a grant to potentially get $100, $200, $250,000 in grant funding to help purchase and develop that property.
Under
What
grant?
if,
Under what grant?
OSLAD, OSLAD. It's an Illinois Department of Natural Resources grant used for purchase of parklands and developing those parklands.
Is that the one that the more amenities that you provide, the better chance of getting the grant?
In a way, there's lots of different factors. So if you're in an economically depressed area, or if you're adding natural habitat, or adding features and amenities that aren't existing, yes. So there are ways to increase your points, so to speak, in the application by adding amenities that are needed in the community, or expanding existing amenities in low-income communities, those types of things.
Yeah, one of the original, or one of the other architects that we talked to specifically did parks, said that the Oslo grant would be, you'd have a better chance on with the more amenities that you added.
Sure.
I didn't think that we were planning in the current budget conditions on adding any amenities. We were just going to do the
Engineering.
Well, as we'll find out shortly, we are very much out of space at certain times of the year in the park.
Say it again.
We have a lot of sports that want to play all at once.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that. I mean, area wise, that isn't, the idea behind the Oslo was that you have to add amenities. Whether it be a new diamond or, well, you know, whatever.
specifically on that property?
On the park, and
So
yes, within
let
the
me,
park.
let me tack onto that. If we're gonna pay that kind of money to have a grant writer write a grant to purchase that land, I would prefer that we add the Mormon property to the west.
That's not an option.
Why not?
They've not been interested at any point in time. in
It's
that.
an option.
I-
How do you know it's not an option until we approach it?
I could send another letter. I sent one like 5 years ago and never got anything back.
Well,
I would prefer to include that parcel also, because if I recall, that was an extension of Lincoln to the north.
Yes.
And if we're gonna get a grant, I'd rather get a grant for both of them.
Well, we can certainly add that, I'm sure, to
And
their.
and if we're gonna pay that kind of money for a grant writing, I'd rather just go for the home run.
well, since I haven't seen it, maybe we should see it before we say anything else. I'll wait till I see.
I
it.
would agree.
All right, I haven't.
I agree.
I'll wait.
Done with this one?
Yeah.
Yes.
He's,
Yeah, we just got it in. I can distribute it to everybody. It is a proposal, so we can obviously negotiate things that we do or don't want to see, but yeah, I like the idea of adding in other properties. And to Chris's question or whatever, this isn't directly specifically budgeted for this next year, but the leveraging the funds would be leveraged probably in the next fiscal year once we got the grant and those types of things. So it's kind of popped up as fitting with this master plan as something to look at. And the deadline is the beginning of September. So it was either do it this year or wait an entire year to reapply. So we're trying to get in on this deadline potentially.
Just for clarification, this map is a little deceptive. This would actually be split right here.
Yes,
As well as the western parcel goes to the western edge of our property.
yeah,
You
I'm
said-
happy to try and reach out to them again.
I know.
Tried it a few years ago.
It wouldn't include this section or
No,
this section.
Nate, he's just showing them on the map.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, I can see a little bit.
He's just showing them on the map what the 10 acres looks like.
The other thing, just another thing relating to the park master plan. We talked to Dylan Friday. They were out surveying again, finally, I guess, today. So we will be having some better information concerning the master plan shortly here, now that they've conducted the survey. So.
Okay,
yeah.
also on the agenda tonight's discussion on the lease and license agreement for sheds and signs in community park, and I'll let Sandy take on that this
Yep.
topic.
So I did a little researching into the history because the football program has claimed that there's an agreement. I've been unable to locate one. They have not provided one. To the best of my knowledge, there isn't a current agreement with Stillman Valley Junior Tackle. So here's what I did find, giving a little history. Back in July of 2001, Blackhawk Junior Tackle, which is what they were known as back then, approached the board and asked them to use the fields, specifically to discuss the use of the soccer fields for the football program and making this our hometown. In August of 2001, Blackhawk asked to put up a temporary press box. In August of 2001, the board agreed to an agreement with Blackhawk Junior Tackle. In 2002, Blackhawk took possession of the press box and agreed to get their own health department permits for their own concession stands. In March of 2004, the village bought a flagpole and a flag, and then Blackhawk Junior Tackle was responsible for landscaping around the flagpole for a memorial for Skip Kruger. Did I say that right? In March of 2004, then Blackhawk offered to buy a shed for the park. Ken just left, but he also purchased one for the village at that point. I confirmed with Ken Deal before the meeting. We own the shed out by the baseball fields, and these two were purchased by the Flag and Blackhawk Junior Tackle program. In April of 2004, this agreement that I can't find that was passed in 2001 was extended for Blackhawk Junior Tackle to 2007. Past 2007, there is no mention of any agreement. In 2006, that's when Blackhawk got the second shed. Ken Deal was supposed to send them a letter that those sheds actually belong to them. And then
You said 06 is a second shed?
yes,
There's only two on there, right?
yeah, but there's actually a shed out by the baseball fields.
That's our.
Yeah, so that one's ours. So
The two are at the press box.
the two by the press box belong to Blackhawk Junior Tackle.
That one was flag football.
I think Ken said Blackhawk and Flag. However, the minutes say Blackhawk
Okay.
on both.
Got it, just for my notes. Got it.
Yep. In August of 2007, Blackhawk Junior Tackle split off into Stillman Valley Junior Tackle per Ken in the minutes. During that time too, I found a follow-up minutes from August of 2017. The village took over possession of the press box as we had then remodeled it, put the new siding on it, the new windows, we essentially rebuilt it. So then the village took possession of it. And then we also decided at that point that any organization could use the press box. So that's the history that I have. What I'm missing is any agreement for the current Stillman Valley Junior Tackle, because any agreement that was in place was with Blackhawk Junior Tackle. So I am missing any current agreement with the current program, and I'm also missing any reference of an agreement past 07.
You don't have the initial agreement. for
I do
Black-
not have the initial agreement. So to the best of my knowledge, there's currently not an agreement for the parks, for the shed, for anything. As you all know, I'm a stickler for paperwork. So I'd really like to do similar to we did to Ogle Crossing recently and ask for either a lease or license agreement for some dollar amount that is low. I think our license agreement is $10, just so that there's guidelines as to who owns the sheds, what the rules are, what the maintenance expectations are. And then what happens if the football program ceases to exist.
If I recall, the press box conversation prior to us rebuilding it.
Yeah.
Junior tackle thought they owned it and, you
Yeah.
know, that went round and around for quite a while.
Yes.
And they agreed and we agreed. Collectively, once we rebuilt it, quote unquote, we were in possession of it.
Yes.
However, we allowed them not only to continue operation out of it, but to maintain storage in there. And they were going to cage off their supplies because their concern was that soccer was going to sell out of there and sell their stuff. Did
Yeah.
they cage that off?
No.
Nate is shaking his head now.
No,
No.
no cage in there? Okay.
So anyway, my recommendation to the board is that we do something similar to we did to Ogle Crossings recently. Just have guidelines in place so that we both know what the expectations are. They know what to expect from us. We know what to expect from them with regard to the sheds that are on our property. In addition, I feel our insurance. company
Basically
would appreciate
stating that they are in possession of them, they'll maintain them in good working order and
Yeah.
not be a liability to the village. It's their property.
Yeah.
Sitting, or their shed sitting on our property, blah,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah.
Very similar to Ogle
All the
Crossings.
legalese.
Very
Sounds good.
similar. And if they cease to exist, then they're ours. Or
If
they
the
have to be
organization
them.
ceases to
Yes.
exist.
Yep, and then set forth a level of expectation of maintenance. It's never been an issue. I feel like
In-
it's beneficial to all.
In
parties.
doing so, I would request that they also extend that agreement that the trailer they park, which I have no problem with, that it is insured somehow. It's
License
sitting on our
insured.
property.
Okay.
Right, every year. I don't have a problem with sitting there, but
Yeah, so that was my first thing. I just wanted to make sure the board was okay with that before I ask our attorney to draw something up.
Well,
I just-
we already have a template.
Huh?
We already have a template. Shouldn't be difficult.
I can doodle it, but it needs their final
Oh,
approval.
I get that.
can't
I get
do
it.
that.
I'm just saying it shouldn't really be a
Yes.
huge thing.
Right.
We already
Yeah.
have a template.
Actually,
Yep.
relatively
So-
expensive.
So,
I'm assuming that's what the public's here for. Can we?
I assume, but I'm not done. So the second thing out there is the sign. And reading through the minutes, the sign was purchased half by the Village of Davis Junction and half by Blackhawk Junior Tackle. We've previously discussed whether or
On the
not
tower?
Which sign, the school
The
board?
one on the tower?
the one on the tower, that's the Stillman Valley Junior Tackle.
I recall this conversation.
Yes,
Let's say the scoreboard's one.
no, so.
No, the one on the tower.
The one
is
on the
sitting up
tower,
there.
that's the Stillman Valley Junior
The one
Tackle.
they claimed that gave them possession of the tower.
So the only minutes I could find for a sign are for Blackhawk Junior Tackle, in which the village purchased half the sign, Blackhawk Junior Tackle purchased the other half. I have no records of who purchased the current sign that's up there. We circle back to stuff in the park that's not ours, and so we need to have a conversation as to whether or not we include that as advertising and just cover them under that, or whether we choose to have another lease license agreement for solely the purpose of that sign.
I don't want to label as advertising because then I think we charge them under advertising.
Do,
I'm not interested in that
so do we want to try and sneak
because they're not a
the
business.
sign?
I'd list the
then we
sign
go
under the
agreement.
agreement of the
Yeah,
shed and other
yeah.
usage,
Okay,
my opinion.
everybody else
That
feels
was
the
Our,
same
our
way?
advertising typically is for businesses to advertise, not nonprofit organizations for our youth.
We don't discriminate against the
I
difference, so if
So,
Meridian,
understand.
well, I can't say Meridian Youth because we own that. If Meridian or Stillman Valley Soccer wanted to come in and advertise, they'd have to be treated under the advertising.
You think that's
policy.
advertisement?
It's listed under advertisement in the policy. I
I
follow the policies. You guys make them.
I don't see it as advertisement, but hey,
Just
whatever.
get it in the property agreement.
Okay, so put it in a lease licensing
Yep.
agreement.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I needed.
Anything further, John?
No.
Chris?
Fergie?
Nothing, thank you.
Chris?
I do want to talk about the mask mandate, but I'll wait till public goes through.
All right. Nathan?
Discussion
on some draft resolution.
Thank you.
Get back here.
By the way, this really annoys Sandy now. Pete.
Yeah.
All right. There needs to be discussion on draft resolution approving and authorizing execution of indemnification and hold harmless agreement between the Village of Davis Junction and Haywell LLC DJ Storage.
This is what I mentioned to you guys last week when Hayden
Yep.
was here, that it's an agreement that it's similar to our 3Bs in which Hayden will stay responsible for the sewer main under 72 and will be responsible for the water service line until it is accepted by IDOT and the village engineer.
Consent agenda.
I'm sure it could be on the consent agenda, but that's what it is.
Just moving it along.
Same as the 3Bs, right?
Same as 3Bs.
Everybody okay with it being on consent agenda?
Yes.
Hold on, one hiccup.
Oh, good.
So the only difference is with 3Bs, their water is on the same side of the road. So with the Hayden property, Haywell property, he will stay responsible for the service line from the main to the B box only until a point in which we approve it, the village engineer and the IDOT has accepted it, then they will stay responsible from the B box to their property like every other property in town. That's the only difference.
Is it going to be cased under 72? Okay, so
What was that?
it'll be much easier to change if we have to.
What size line?
I think it's a residential,
I think the sanitary.
6 inches.
And I think the water services.
Two. I would, okay, thank you. That's what I was hoping.
That's good.
I'm not where the sewer
With
and
with
water.
a
was
case, with
fine.
a case, we can pull the pipe back out, push pipe back through pretty simply.
True.
So as
Everybody okay with consent agenda?
Yep.
All right.
long as it doesn't blow up on them again. All right. Anything further, Nathan?
That's it.
All right, anything on unfinished business?
I'm with Chris. I'd like to discuss the mask mandate. If we're gonna go back to a mask in Village Hall, I'd go back to the allowing of remote participation without the policy of sickness or work.
So the governor has, my understanding is not only would Rick need to declare a public emergency here, he would need to, the governor would need to, I'd have to double check with Bowen on it.
My-
But the reason
I thought we were allowed to keep that.
Yeah, I thought we
in
left that
place.
open.
I
We
did-
elected to eliminate it.
because the state was also under an emergency, the governor's new executive order changed. I did not read it because it didn't apply to us, so I need to read that to verify. But the reason the masks were asked to be put back in place is we received specifically an email from our insurance company telling us that we needed to ensure that we were following CDC and IDPH
So
guidelines.
this is not a state mandate.
It is
Got
a CDC.
Got it.
Recommendation.
Got it.
No, it's aren't covered by our insurance policy. Our attorney is
We are
recommended. and
covered.
The Illinois Municipal League has.
They strongly advise. We're still,
No, no.
Recommend,
we're still covered.
recommend.
I've
We're
never
covered.
heard you guys.
CDC says recommend.
Thank you.
Enzo Glink also sent out a thing saying that we can. It does iffy, but if you read their latest update, it goes through. it
Here's the
says
thing,
that
you guys are elected officials. You can do what you like. I can't force you to do anything. What I can do is ask that the public and everybody else who's not elected, please wear one in Village Hall. I ask that we follow the guidelines set forth by the CDC and the IDPH at the advice of our attorney and at the advice of our insurance company.
And I'll tell you this, I'm probably one of the most adamant people about not wearing one of these masks. I think they're about as useless as they can possibly be. But as an elected official of the village, I'm going to wear one when we're asked to wear one within the village because I'm not going to jeopardize any monies coming from the state or federal government that might come to this village because I decided not to wear a
Well,
mask.
allowing people to attend remotely would just enhance that. Right.
I agree, if we're still allowed to do it.
I'll
We
look
are
into
still
it.
allowed to do it, we will do it.
That'd be great.
I'll look into it.
I appreciate Sandy keeping everybody safe and we certainly all don't want to be going to anybody's funeral.
I agree, but our insurance company does not dictate policy.
No, I
on
would
behalf
agree
of
with
the
that
village.
either. Both, I would agree.
There
with
is a reason
They
I
do not
got
dictate policy.
immunized, right? What's the point of getting the immunization if it doesn't?
Put it on
provide-
TikTok with everyone else.
No,
so.
I'm just saying. There is a reason why you got. it.
All right, guys. Any more unfinished business? On the public.
Aye. Yeah, there you go.
You have to use the microphone. Other than that,
Is it on? Is it on? Great.
it's already on.
Okay, that's fine. Anyways, Brad Pittman, I am the current junior tackle president right now. And I had a conversation with Nathan, well, a few conversations here in the last couple of weeks, just about where we've gotten so far this year. And he told me about this meeting and said we should probably attend and at least, and a lot of it about the stuff you guys already discussed about the lease and stuff. And I think we're okay with that as long as we make that legal or whatever. My question would be, is who is, just because I don't know, who was involved in the agreement giving you guys possession of the press box? I know you said there was an agreement, but there was no one
There's
saying
no
who
written
gave.
agreement.
Well, here's the background. I was on the board during that entire conversation.
Huh.
There was no agreement as to who built it and who paid for the material. I recall the conversation explicitly. It was built by volunteers of the community. But the minute it was erected on village property, it became possession of the village,
Well,
despite
it
who
had-
volunteered to build it.
it was also the $13,000 put into it from the village to
That was
build it.
after, that was long after.
I understand that.
And then the village in 17 replaced all the siding and the
Yeah.
windows
Yep.
and all that other stuff, but
Yep, I recall that.
Yeah.
So the question would be then, as far as regarding us using that for concessions and stuff like that, and it's not been an issue. We haven't caged anything off. It would just make it a real logistical nightmare if you're gonna have multiple programs and they're trying to keep everybody's stuff separate and everything else was.
I remember the conversation and it was talked about. The junior tech was gonna cage off their supplies so the soccer could sell. And then soccer came in afterwards and
Yeah.
said they don't want it anyways. So
Gotcha.
it became a moot point.
Sounds good. Well, anyway, we're totally okay with the sheds. I think that makes total sense to us. Our only concern really is just moving forward to make sure we have adequate practice space. This year has worked out okay. And I know some of these guys are going to speak to that as well, but it's worked out okay for this year. But it's definitely not ideal for what we've had in the past, for a number of reasons. One, just because the sheds are there. Football is it's a totally different animal, as you guys know, than soccer or any other sport. In the essence, you have pads, you have sleds, you have chutes, you have all these things that are right there, and where we're at right now is fine, but making us move out of that general vicinity is going to be a really difficult thing for practices without having all that kind of stuff right there. So anyway, stuff like that to consider. I know the next couple of years as that progress, when Nathan talked about the new property you guys are looking to buy and stuff like that. That's fantastic when it gets done. We understand the next couple of years we're gonna have to kind of just work with everybody to make field space happen. But moving forward, I mean, our desire is to be able to go back to where we've always had it because of some of the things these guys are gonna be talking about. Specifically the condition of that field was built, designed, maintained, tiled and everything. So it would be a really good playing field for football. And so that's kind of where we're at on that, is just making sure moving forward, we have kind of a understanding of where we lie in the midst of things. And if we need to get permits in January 1st to make sure we get our space, whatever, we just want to know what we need to do to make sure we get what we need to have, if that makes sense.
So this is the current playing field.
Yes,
This used to be practice field.
yes.
This is
Practice
current-
field, and not just practice field, but it was set up to
Like-
where it was two, I think 80-yard fields maybe. And we would split that between 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th during the week. And then on the weekends, the flag football, they would have 2 games going on right there
Make
too.
sure
And they were
everybody's aware
already,
of What we're talking about.
they were already pre-striped and we're north of there right now.
This is current field.
Yes.
Yeah.
That other one, Nate can stop me if I'm speaking incorrectly here, but that other one is currently set up also as a soccer field. We also have a larger soccer program than when you guys first started here.
Yep.
And we actually have adult leagues that now play in the park too. And so we need the additional soccer space. And ideally, and pushing Nate's idea for the park here, is ideally that pond would be reshaped and that extra space turned into extra grass so that Nate could have extra space for
Fields.
fields, but that's a
My
costly
un-
project.
My understanding too is Nate needed to rotate fields to keep your fields in the best
Mhm.
situation they could be in. is my understanding.
Can you move the shed?
So
You
the
have to
pockets
talk-
and stuff,
you
when
have
the
to
kids
talk
have played
into
out
the
in
microphone.
there, would benefit from maybe some rotation. Cause I've seen it out there in the, when it's soupy and muddy, when the boys have played, my kid plays in the program. So like, I've seen it get, pitted and rough out there during the season. So, a rotation or maybe some practices and things like that probably would benefit a little bit even. So
Can you move the sheds?
Can we move the sheds?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm just wondering if, I mean,
I mean, we could, but the question would be to where.
You gotta use the mic.
Ideally for
So I'm
No,
trying.
no, no, you're fine. The three behind
Okay,
you keep
game,
talking
no.
and I can't hear them. in the mic.
Oh,
Then
okay.
they're eliminated. If you move the sheds,
I thought it was practice stuff in the sheds, that's all.
It is.
I thought
We
there was
have-
game stuff in there too, Mark.
Yeah, there is game markers
Yeah.
for the fields. It's
I mean,
all, anyways, I guess where I'm at is moving forward after I understand the project gets finished. If we can somehow come back to a place where we can have those fields back the way they've had them for the last 20+ years, it would be really beneficial to the program, just to know where we're at. We have to have adequate space. Football, again, is just different. You have field perspective for practices, you have yard markers, you have all these different things, and it makes it really difficult being kind of scattered with all the equipment we need, such as sled chutes, that type of thing. But
The truth is, we don't know when the projects will go forward or go through with at all,
Right.
because we don't know what our budget situation will be going forward, so.
Right.
I wouldn't rely
What if,
that thought.
what if there's another storage space for the game day stuff that would stay near the fields and then the shed? Are sheds portable? I know what Chris was asking.
I don't know, that's what I was.
If the shed could be portable,
Are they?
and
That would.
Um,
to me,
They're on a concrete slab.
Thank you, Nate. I was just gonna repeat that. You cannot speak
On a
unless you're speaking
slab.
into the microphone because we record these for the public and so they can't hear you if there's no
That
microphone.
would be a no then.
We have
I don't
a,
know, firsthand, I
Matt?
think the sooner you get your permit in,
Matt,
better.
sure.
can you move, share?
Yeah, and I'm okay with that.
Oh, his is dead.
That's fine.
But like I said, that's just what we want to know is whenever the permit date is, if you could let us know what that is, so we can get it in ASAP, so we can hopefully request that space. Whatever. I mean, that's kind of where we're at. So moving forward, we know where we're at, position wise with the district. So that's all I
It's
have.
not picking up.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Tim Duffy. I'm not a resident of the village. I'm not affiliated with any organization right now. All I can tell you is I was the one that put the flag football shed in. The junior tackle shed has a wood floor that sits on a concrete pad. The flag football shed does not have a floor. It is built right onto the concrete pad. And just, I've heard some questions about who's paid for it, who hasn't. The flag football shed was paid for all by 100% funds raised by the Little Warrior program.
Before you go further, I don't think there's any question
No.
to pay for the sheds.
No.
The
Okay.
In the
conversation
minutes.
was the press box. We know junior tackle and flag pay for their sheds.
Okay,
That's what the license and leasing
Yeah,
agreement.
there's no question.
okay. So as far as, there was a question about moving the sheds, the only thing that I can add to that then is that the flag football shed does have a concrete floor. It does not have a wood floor in it. So that would be a little bit more difficult than to just pick up a shed that already has a pre-built floor in it. So, okay, all right, thank you.
I don't think our solution here is to move the sheds.
No, I just thought, if
It's
they
an
could,
option.
well, right, for this
I-
year, they could move them back, whatever.
Yeah, right. We're gonna move them eventually,
Hello, my name's Ken Deal. First time to a village board meeting. No, I'm just kidding.
In 5 years.
I'm just here to talk on the history a little bit of when we came over. I think it was about 20 years ago that we came over. Brian Vandiver and Nikki Doan were the ones that put this together, the original agreement. The press box, I do know, was built by volunteers. But I think maybe because it was a permanent structure, it was just, hey, they can use it. But I mean, you can't really take it with you, I don't think. I mean, if the club does, I don't know if they want to tear that down, but I mean, I don't think you can really take it with it because it's pretty much permanent on cement. Now, as far as the fields, I know that there's been a lot of work by volunteers on the drain tile, painting, watering. When Jamie Young was here, a lot of soil samples, aeration, those kinds of things. So these fields have kind of been groomed for the football program. If you're gonna move them north of the bike path by the sled hill, that hasn't had that kind of work done. It's like playing on concrete. You don't believe me, go tackle somebody out there and you'll find out real fast. So these two fields have kind of been set up more for football, and they've had a lot of work in them over the last 20 years on it. And it's set up, originally was set up so that you could, depending on the weather and everything else, you could play games on either field. So, and I don't know, I mean, junior tackle has been here for a long time. And I know it's village property, you guys can do with it what you want. But I would think an adequate notice to the club that they're gonna get moved would probably be the courteous thing to do, so.
I don't think that there was a lack of notice. There was a lack of application by both flag and tackle football to apply for use of the fields this year. I don't think flag just applied last week before, Nate. Yeah, flag football just applied for use of the field. That's really where the hiccup is coming in, is we heard from soccer and we heard from everybody else before we heard from the football.
And
program.
the way we set it up this year did change with Nate
Yeah.
being in charge now. So it did change where you need to sign up for the field.
Yeah, and I did
So
leave,
that
a-
was different.
I did leave a message for Chad Barger about 4 or 5 weeks ago about the flag football program, because he's also my neighbor. And we didn't hear anything for a few more weeks after that. So that's really where I think the majority of the hiccup has come in, is that there was a lack of ability to plan appropriately because we didn't know what whose needs were, because nobody applied for.
Here's
them.
the real underlying factor, right? And this, Nate, don't take personal offense to any of this. I've had 100 conversations with you. Prior to Nate, we had Kenny Lambert.
Yep.
Davis Junction resident.
Yep.
Prior to Kenny, we had Jamie Young.
Yep.
Who worked here for
Yep.
eons. I don't even know who was in parks before him.
We didn't have a
Nobody.
part.
We didn't have any. So everyone prior to Nate was either a resident or worked here for decades and all knew junior tackle and flag football, practiced and played here.
Right,
Nate did not.
okay.
So when we hired him 2 years ago, last year, we didn't have any, we didn't have
Yeah,
any.
COVID hit and we didn't have a
COVID hit.
program.
We had
Right?
nothing
Canceled
to
it.
do.
He
So
knew-
come this year, we gave Nate, this board gave Nate direction that if an organization does not submit a permit, they don't get, and I coached softball for many years and I had to follow the same guidelines. If I didn't submit an application to Nate, I didn't get a field as a resident, right? So he scheduled practices and games in order of applications that came in. And if COVID didn't hit last year, we would have had this exact same conversation last year. But he's only coming through this now because we're getting back to the full swing of things. And despite somebody or any organization that practiced on a field or had games on a field for over 20 years, I've been on this board for 10 years. And I know for a fact that we have explicitly shared that football field with soccer. And we demanded that they get equal rights to that field. As long as we told junior tackle, submit your schedule, your home schedule, and whatever's not a home game, we will allow soccer to play on there. And I recall 10 years ago, there was rift just about that. But we set that straight, you know, that the park is the communities. It's not any one organ, it's not softball, it's not soccer, it's not football. And it goes to everybody. And my personal opinion, this is just an application issue, what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And-
So the only I was going to speak to as far as that was to what you spoke to. The schedule was given in May by Ty to him, and the application was submitted in June. And that's what they've done it every year. I mean, it's not like it's new. And I think that's where I mean, again, I've talked with Nathan about this. It was just a communication issue because we transferred leadership in junior tackle and flag football. They did everything the way they always have.
Yeah.
So the issue was we weren't aware that anything had really changed since our prior, 2019 was the last year we actually played. So we weren't aware that we needed to get that in back in January or whatever that was. And so that's where the frustration at our end kind of came in, that's what we got told to us. Well, you guys didn't submit your stuff. Well, we did submit our stuff. Well, not soon enough. They got it in. Well, that's what became the rub for the junior tackle and the flag football, because we've done this. And I understand flags, they haven't submitted their stuff, but junior tackle did, and they're separate organizations. And so because of that, but they did everything they've done since they've been doing it, if that
As
makes
a
sense.
former Parks trustee,
Yeah.
I recall, and this is where the process used to work as a former Parks trustee. The application would come in, it went to the supervisor,
Yeah.
and then it came to the trustee. It went to the supervisor for approval, and then it came to the trustee
Mm-hmm.
as the final. And we got away from that because as we're getting bigger and more applications,
Mhm.
the trustees don't really need to be involved in that.
Time.
Now, if we would have had that process and it would have went to Nate and then went to the Parks trustee, he would have known that junior
Right.
tackles played there for 25 years and
Yeah.
like football, he doesn't know that.
Yep.
And that's an internal thing.
But
that we'll-
again,
we'll make-
And we get that. Like I said,
we
moving
had-
forward though, and what we would need to know is when can we submit that? The earliest we could submit that so we can,
AUN,
Nate,
Nate,
Nate would
Fall
like to
next year.
talk.
what's that?
Nate would.
go ahead, Nate.
I would just like to clarify that I mean, yes, there was some delays in scheduling or delays in communication with the permitting, but regardless of the permitting, my approach and philosophy toward managing safe and quality athletic fields is different than whatever predecessor is here. And so my goal is to protect the fields and the investment that this village has put into those fields, regardless of who uses them. So I distribute that impact or usage by those various groups based on their disturbance, their repetition of doing drills in the same area, and trying to rotate around, because I feel it's important that the flag football team that plays on that field have a safe field with good grass cover and isn't disturbed and destroyed by the practice of another user. So I'm balancing 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm balancing about 10 different organizations and users in the village property right now, all for the benefit of everybody who uses it, all for the benefit of the village, and trying to equitably distribute those uses so they don't create a disturbance or an issue for other users. So I can't say as if I know that football has practiced and played in various areas throughout the years. However, my approach to managing the field disturbance and care for the health and safety of the players is different. And so I've changed that philosophy moving forward. Now, that doesn't mean that it can't change halfway through the season when various permits drop off and others add on. So this isn't, you know, something where somebody's being kicked off their area. This is a change in the management of the fields to better produce safe fields for all users, not just flag football, not just junior tackle, not just soccer, not just anybody, but all of the people who use this facility year round. Because next spring, I have to get ready for soccer in the spring. And if I have a destroyed field, I'm going to spend thousands of dollars and thousands of hours of time to fix that issue. So I'm trying to look out for the village's resources. In the past, the village had one employee, Weaver, and many of the volunteers from junior tackle did a lot of that maintenance work, the striping and the field work, and I respect that. I've not touched any of the monuments or any of the other structures or facilities out there. This is a scheduling issue with maintaining high quality fields and not having excessive disturbance. And I'd like to work with the coaches to try to rotate around different areas and move forward with that process in the future. I will say that junior tackle does get a lot of perks that maybe other permittees don't get. I was given their schedule in May. Yes, those dates were locked off the calendar and blocked off for their use. But then, and soccer then decides when they can hold their games around that. So priority of use is given to junior tackle for their schedule. They have the exclusive use of the concession stand and various other things. So this is simply just rotating around practice areas to alleviate disturbance on playing and game fields for the betterment of all the things. So that's where I'm coming from. So, and yes, it is important to have timely permits, but a permit is a request for use based on the other permits that I get. And I have to balance all of those users. So regardless if you get it in January 1st or July 1st, there may be other people that use this property and facility as well that I have to try to manage and find space for. You know, we've found space for soccer fields far away and other areas and over on the 14 acre in the past. So I'm trying to manage the turf a little bit differently moving forward. And I hope, you know, Brad and I have met and talked, and so we have a good working relationship. Hopefully we can continue that.
Is it
That's all I
possible? Sorry. Go ahead, Nate.
That was it. That's all I had. I'm sorry. I'm blabbing.
Is it possible to do maybe like a long-term agreement? Because when you got a changing of guard so often, to help transition that change of guard for you guys and possibly the change of a guard here in the future, is it a possibility to set up like a 5-year agreement or something with them where we have like some tentative stuff figured out and kind of the base model figured, and then we just renew that 5-year? And we have a set time when all your dates come in and we have, you know,
There's,
we're prepared, you're prepared, and everything else can go from there.
from what I recall, dealing with the attorneys, any single board cannot tie the hands of
Right.
any future board beyond your current term. So you can't enter into an agreement beyond 1 year or 2 years.
2 years then, or whatever would be
was
the
3.
term that we would be in.
I thought we
It's
did that
something
with-
short, but you
Yeah.
can't tie the hands of a future board.
Yeah,
But
you can make them, you can
They-
renew.
they can
them. You
always
have
vote it
them
away.
renewable.
yes. Yeah, you can enter a 2 year, 3 year, whatever the term is with an automatic renewal.
Something just to help
Uh,
ease the pain
standard
of these
approval.
things when they.
But that doesn't sound like what Nate wants to do. Nate wants to be able to rotate.
Well, I don't know, you know, like you get a kid in flag football, he's in there, what, maybe 5 years or something like that in flag football? If you go start from kindergarten all the way through 4th grade, or yeah, 4 years.
I recall
So-
junior tackle practicing on the practice fields.
Yeah.
And then
Who's
junior
practicing
tackle was
on
4
that?
years, so.
Nobody,
Oh.
this is Heather Lawler, sorry, Stillman Valley resident and passionate football fan and coach's wife and everything else. I think that comes down to multiple issues, like what you're saying is like, yes, those fields have been used for junior tackle. There's nobody been on them for the last 2 weeks. So that's the first issue. One, they're going unutilized by the kids that are so excited to be here that they're getting in the cars 15 to 20 minutes early for parents because they didn't get to play last year. So that's the first thing. They're unutilized. Every other night we've been out here, unutilized, and the kids are out on the concrete fields. And yes, it is a safety issue, because here's the thing, like Kenny was saying, those are concrete. These fields have been prepped, tiled, watered, everything done for 20 years minus last year. So when it comes to a safety issue, you're probably more at a liability right now with those kids out there.
Oh, we're not.
I would like to say that those fields have been aerated, irrigated, sprayed, and
Hey,
fertilized.
I'm gonna tell you, I've walked on them in the season, off the season. Those fields are nowhere close to the practice fields that these kids have utilized for 20 years. And I
Sure.
understand that there has been a changing of the guard, and I understand that people like to make changes. I guess what it comes down to me, from a community standpoint, is if you're gonna make a change, should you? And when you're gonna come down to it from a communication standpoint, if there's only one person that knows that that change is gonna be made, it should have been communicated. If a schedule is sent May 19th and there is no communication about any fields being changed at all until July 13th, 2 weeks before a practice starts, I don't think that's clear
Well,
communication.
there should be no, I'm
Yeah.
say this all due respect, there should be no expectation that anybody has any guaranteed right to any village
And
on a
I
piece of
I
property.
totally respect that as well, but I'm just saying from a community standpoint and a communication standpoint, I would have done the same thing as you said, a courteous thing. Pick up the phone. Hey, we're looking at making some changes. This is what we're thinking. Can you give us the pros and cons of why we shouldn't? I guess I feel blessed that we live in a community where usually people do take care of one another. You know, we all go through Rockford, we all go through other areas. Down here, I say it's like Pleasantville and Technicolor because people usually will take care of each other. And I think that's a blessing. You can shake your head at me if you'd like.
I'm gonna speak.
I'm gonna say, I think we like to take care of one another. If you don't like to take care of one another, that is totally on you. I'm just saying that's what we try to
I
do.
guess I need clarity. Nate, is So what we know as the weekend or the Sunday or week, I don't remember when they played. I don't have kids in the program. but
Saturday.
The Saturday flag football field, which during the week used to be the practice field. Is nobody on that during the week anymore?
Soccer starts practice next week, and every Sunday we have the league that plays on there. But I did receive,
Practice field.
Yes.
Yeah, when do they get done?
what's that?
The soccer.
They start next week with practices.
And their program ends when?
October. And then the men's league ends at the end of for some clarification, the other league that we had playing started in May, and they're playing till the end of August. And then I just got junior or flag football's request, so we'll be able to transition over to those fields within 2 weeks when they have their game. So it's just getting staged so that way as one user expires, another one comes in, and there's just going to be some overlap on areas moving forward on for various rotations of fields and stuff. But I did have a conversation with Brad and discussed the fact that he said, can they play on those practice on those areas? And I said, yeah. I said, the whole point of this was to rotate around and not utilize the same 20-yard line every time for all of the drills. And you can use the game field for a couple scrimmages one night, rotate around to the other field the other night, run the sled hill one night. So I had that conversation about the philosophy of rotating these fields around. And then now with the way the flag football will start, we could use that space as well, once soccer is finishing up and flag football is there. So
This is all about practice, correct?
Correct.
Do we still have our IGA with? I actually might not even have this right, but do we still have the IGA with the high school, the
We
school
never got
district?
one.
we don't have a IGA with the high school.
Anybody in the Tanaka Park?
Soccer in the 10-acre?
Yeah, there's soccer, a club team practices there during the evenings, and then likely the Stillman Youth Soccer will practice there as well at times during the week, during their season.
I know you guys won't like this answer, but this is a good problem to have. It just means there's so many kids in sports and so many people needing space.
These kids need sports. I mean, every day I hear of a kid that's battling depression, suicidal thoughts.
What about the
Everything
wastewater
else
treatment
goes.
plant?
Getting them back involved is a positive
No.
thing.
Here's part of the
That's rough.
issue is I was a
Oh,
soccer.
oh, oh, let her finish.
Go ahead.
So when we look at helping the kids, that's what this all comes down to, is what can we do for the kids to give them the best possible experience that they can have. And when it looks like, I understand your issue, like you brought up with the trailer, making sure it's like, that's just common sense and making sure that those things are done. If we could do a 2 to 3 year agreement, as long as that's something that Brad and the group, I think that would help, because I think it comes down to community, and I think it comes down to communication. Because ultimately, if we change things when it comes to a safety issue, that hurts the kids. If we change things from things that they have grown accustomed to, because that's what these kids look up. They know exactly where they're headed from any level in this sport. They know what they want to aspire to. So I think we need to do the right things for the kids when it comes down to it. And if it needs to be communication, any single one of us are open to that. We've got the cell phones, we've got the emails, we'll do all those things that need to be done because we ultimately are here for the kids.
I'm going to say one thing as a village clerk, and then I'm going to step away into my resident role. So first thing as a clerk is I did notice in the minutes that a board member used to attend the meetings for Stillman Valley Junior Tackle. And maybe that's an idea as opposed to an agreement. We just have somebody attend your meetings and then you attend our meetings.
Did that board member happen to have a
Ken Deal.
child participating?
That's
often
something
do you meet?
we need to lease agreement.
How
Oh,
often
well,
do you
the
meet?
lease agreement on the,
Yes.
but I hesitated.
I do too.
Does
Okay.
the board meet? Our junior tackle board meets usually a couple times a year. after the season starts and before the season starts, generally speaking, so.
And I mean, I'll give you my card because I won't be changing it in the next 3.5 years, God willing. But, and
See
you
about
can
that.
take John's card too, and maybe contact one of us. And maybe
He's a
contact,
live wire today.
I know, and maybe contact one of us when you guys have a board meeting, and I'm happy to share it out to whoever can attend. So I'm stepping away from my role as village clerk. I'm also a mom in the school district. I had a son who played soccer for 10 years, and all 10 of those years were spent on what is the 14 acres. All his high school years were spent on an awesome soccer field with gopher holes in the middle of it. That's a high school problem. So it is disturbing to me as a soccer mom that I watch you guys with these awesome pristine fields and the soccer program gets the leftovers. And so I, as a resident, as a mom, as a soccer mom, really appreciate the fact that there's some rotation and some push to put soccer with all the other kids and put them where they belong in the nicer fields. But to some extent, that's because the 14 acres is for sale and not necessarily a field anymore.
I mean, more background on that. We pushed to have the high school bring the varsity soccer here.
Yeah.
We wanted them here.
Yeah.
They said no,
Yes.
because
Why
the
soccer
field is not
was
big
put
enough.
in 14 acres.
Yeah.
Is we asked them to come over and they said, no, we're
Yep.
still in.
I know.
That's-
Ken,
Not a Stillman
hey,
team.
Ken,
You
It
still
was
have that
not
mic.
wide enough.
where's
They
your
came out,
microphone?
the football
Okay.
field is
He
not
doesn't
an
hear this.
official size.
I can hear you
And that's-
fine.
So,
And that's correct. And I think like what you said too, and I think it goes back to community, because I mean, we are talking about decades of here of people on, and I'm not saying is this as a slight to soccer, so please don't take it that way. This was not built by accident. It's blood, it's sweat, it's financial contributions from people that gave and gave tirelessly and gave selflessly. We're talking back to the Brian Vandevers, who's no longer with us, the John Cox, who's no longer with us. This is decades of people that gave and they gave to create this. I think every program should do it. I mean, quite honestly, that's what it takes. And I would say it takes a village and it takes a valley, because it really does of people that truly care about kids to get any of these things done. So I am all for it. And I'm sorry that that was the situation, because kids deserve the best that we can give them in a community in which we live.
they do, which is
Period.
why I really appreciate needs rotation so that soccer isn't feeling like we're pushing them to the side.
No, and I don't.
I
think
wish,
anyone
I
should
wish
feel
we
that
could
way.
water more of the park. I wish we could build more sheds. I wish, the
Yeah.
fact of the matter is the village's revenue is not what it was 5 years ago. It was not what it was 10 years ago.
2 years ago.
20 years ago.
It's lower
not
than
what
it was when the
It's-
first
Yeah.
check.
It's lower now than it
Yeah.
probably has been in over 15,
20.
20
Yeah,
years.
20 years.
And that's what we're battling. And we're
Yeah.
trying to manage and maintain what we have. And I'm guessing that's why he's done the rotation. Hopefully in a handful of years, we can go back to living like we did 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah, and if it
At this
becomes
point.
something where, you know, we need to go after and go get some sponsors to contribute to these things, I mean, don't tell my husband I signed up for something else, but I'm just saying, like, I have no problem going out and asking people if they would like to contribute to keep these opportunities happening here. So. Thank you.
I'm Gallery Stone. I'm just here to back all these guys up. I've been a part of the program for 20 years, and it is important. And we want to make it a good community feel for everybody. So we feel deeply about this. And I'm not going to reiterate what everybody said, but a lot of our agreements, why you don't see that on book is because it was a gentleman's agreement. Shook hands. You helped each other out. We made it work. So from going on from here, when we make these agreements, we will want that in writing. So then we know.
Gentlemen's agreements are perfect and great as long as those gentlemen are still in place. But when
Well-
Ken Deal leaves.
Yeah.
And I understand that. And I understand that boards change because we have that every couple years. And we do expect things because we've always had it. But like Heather said, we put a lot into things to make those fields what they are. And we also wanted the respect from continued boards to keep that going. So as a community, we're talking about Monroe Center, Davis Junction, Stillman Valley. If it comes to the separate programs to help out, to get those fields where they need to be, so everyone's safe, then that's what we have to do. But we know that that's not an easy task. Because we've been there, we've done it. We're just asking that our kids be safe and that we, we have that respect given back to us. That's all. And we are available if that changes where we can, like I said, get things ready for the kids for continued years where we don't have to do this every year. Worry about our practice fields and our
I can-
playing fields.
I will tell you this much. Of my time, 10 years on the board and his 16 or whatever the hell is, and John's 12.
John's been here a
I
long
think
time.
this is the first time I've seen the organizations here
That is not true.
in my tenure.
I know that.
Collectively in my tenure, I believe.
I think
So,
Oh,
and if I'm wrong, it would have been in the minutes, and I can tell you this for a fact, she'd have found it.
You guys
Well-
have been here twice in the last 7 or 8 years, and both times were to discuss either presenting a check to assist with the
Yeah.
painting of the field
So
or to thank us for the maintenance of the field.
this is where
The
the
only time
gentleman's
I
agreement
find
you're
it
talking
in
about,
minutes.
I can promise you, knowing Sandy, this conversation will be documented. So 10 years from now, if it happens again, it will be found, whereas we can't find it now because it was never done.
And the whole point behind the agreement, the lease agreement is to have that documented, to have it in
Right.
writing. So both sides know what to expect.
Exactly.
We recently did it with Ogle Crossing for their signage out front of their subdivision, and it seems to have worked out well. It was $10, I think, for a 99-year lease, like some
Right.
ridiculous licensing limitation.
Sure.
But it gives you expectations, it gives me a piece of paperwork, so when this board has changed, we can go back and be like, okay, this is what the actual agreement is.
Right.
Correct.
Well,
me if
and like I said, part of our frustration is the rules kind of changed midstream. So we were kind of caught and quite surprised when we found out where we were going to be.
I don't,
So we were,
no,
we
no,
were.
that's not what
So-
I'm gonna comment on.
like I said, I don't want to have to reiterate what everybody said. I'm just here as basically a support for the
Whatever-
junior tackle program and for our community making the best that it can be.
Whatever bumps and bruises we get this year, we'll get through it. And next year everybody will understand the expectations.
Yeah,
should be
we hope that's going to be the case. We hope that's going to be the case.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the lease agreement won't have anything to do with which fields they practice. on.
No,
It'll
All
be
right.
for the-
I don't want that to
no,
be
but it'd be,
confused.
it'd be the
Confusion.
ownership of the sheds, and
Yes.
who maintains the sheds, and
Right.
how they go away.
Right, but it has nothing to do with which fields anybody practices.
The direction I'm going to take, unless somebody corrects me, is that the lease licensing, I'll determine with our attorneys, which is more appropriate, will be for the 2 sheds, the sign on the press box, and there will probably be language in there discussing the press box belongs to us, even though your sign is on our press box. But I assume that that's what it'll be. No fields, not matching fields.
You probably should also mention that they have use of the press box,
Yeah, it'll talk about that they have use of the press box, but it's owned by us.
but it has nothing
Yeah.
to do with the fields and which field you practice on. So, just saying.
Okay.
I don't want anybody to get confused.
We'll look over the agreement when it comes. around. Thank you.
Any further public?
Oh, side note, this is government. We move at a snail's pace, so you'll have to give me a month or so. It's government. We move at a snail's pace, so it'll probably be a month or so before you see anything from me.
I think snails are faster than the speed of government. Anything further from anybody from public? Anything further from the board members, betterment of this community? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Then makes motion to adjourn, Nathan seconds.
That wasn't.
No, I was,
That was good.
William?
Can't note it.
I'm sorry, it was always Nathan. William seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. You're adjourned at 8:23.